I don't have to tell you that it's a period of great global and technological change. It's exhausting and confusing. One industry absolutely thrives on that kind of widespread confusion: consultancy.
From boardrooms to the White House and beyond, McKinsey's influence in business is virtually unparalleled.
It is quite possibly the most influential private institution on the planet.
An organization has a problem that they cannot solve with their internal resources. That's the most classic way that McKinsey.
There's a company that advised Purdue Pharma on how to sell more OxyContin during the opioid epidemic. The same company that helped authoritarian governments track and suppress dissidents. The same company that worked with both ICE detention centers and the firms profiting from them. The same company behind Enron's collapse, the 2008 financial crisis, and dozens of corporate frauds. And chances are you've never heard of them. They operate in the shadows. They leave no fingerprints. And when their advice leads to disaster, they simply disappear, collect their fees, and move on to the next client. This is McKinsey Company, the most powerful consulting firm in the world. And today, you're going to discover why they're called the firm that built the modern world, and the scandals that came with it. McKinsey doesn't make products. They don't sell services to consumers. They don't advertise. Most people have never heard their name. Yet, they've advised 2/3 of the Fortune 500, over 90 governments worldwide, and generated over $15 billion in annual revenue. They're everywhere and nowhere. In boardrooms and war rooms, advising pharmaceutical companies and government agencies, working with oil companies and climate organizations, sometimes on opposite sides of the same issue. Their former employees include the CEOs of Google, Boeing, and Morgan Stanley. They've produced cabinet secretaries, presidents of countries, and heads of central banks. Once you enter McKinsey, you join an elite network that opens every door in the world. But this power comes with a price, and it's not McKinsey paying it, it's the rest of us. Let's start with the crisis that killed over 500,000 Americans, the opioid epidemic. In 2013, Purdue Pharma hired McKinsey. Their problem? OxyContin sales were declining. Doctors were becoming more cautious about prescribing it. The DEA was investigating. Public awareness of addiction was growing. McKinsey's solution? Turbocharge sales anyway? They created presentations with titles like Turbocharge the Sales Engine. They identified which doctors were the highest prescribers and created strategies to push them to prescribe even more. They discussed paying rebates to distributors for every overdose linked to their pills. Actual cash incentives tied to overdoses. Think about that. A consulting firm creating a business model where overdoses became a line item to be managed, not prevented. When one McKinsey partner worried the documents might look bad, another suggested they eliminate all our documents and emails. They knew what they were doing. They knew it was wrong. They did it anyway. The result? Purdue Pharma increased OxyContin sales by billions while the death toll skyrocketed. McKinsey collected $86 million in fees. And when the scandal broke, they paid a $573 million settlement without admitting wrongdoing. No executives went to jail. No one lost their license. They just moved on. That settlement, less than 4% of their annual revenue, the cost of doing business. But the opioid crisis isn't an isolated incident. It's a pattern, and the pattern goes global. McKinsey has worked with authoritarian regimes across the world. In Saudi Arabia, they helped the government identify and track dissidents on Twitter. They created presentations analyzing how to combat negative sentiment online, sentiment that included calls for human rights and democracy. One of those dissidents they helped identify was later kidnapped and murdered. His name was Jamal Khashoggi. In China, McKinsey worked with state-owned enterprises and government agencies implementing surveillance systems in Xinjiang, where over 1 million Uyghurs have been detained in what the UN calls crimes against humanity. In Russia, they advised state-owned companies with deep ties to Putin's regime, helping optimize operations for firms later sanctioned for financing the war in Ukraine. Their defense? Client confidentiality. We just provide analysis. We don't make decisions. We're advisors. not executors. But here's the truth. When you help a regime optimize its operations, when you provide strategies to suppress dissent, when you make authoritarian governments more efficient, you're not just an advisor, you're an accomplice. Let's come back to corporate America, because McKinsey's resume of disasters reads like a greatest hits of business failures. Enron. McKinsey advised them on their revolutionary business model, the one that collapsed in the largest bankruptcy in American history at the time. Swissair. McKinsey's Hunter strategy led to the airline's collapse, costing thousands of jobs and billions in losses. The 2008 financial crisis? McKinsey advised multiple banks on risk management and optimization strategies that helped inflate the housing bubble. When it popped, the global economy collapsed. Valiant Pharmaceuticals? McKinsey advised them on pricing strategies that increased drug prices by thousands of %. The company collapsed amid fraud investigations. Theranos? McKinsey consultants worked there before its blood testing fraud was exposed. The pattern is consistent. McKinsey comes in, extracts massive fees, delivers advice focused on short-term profits, and disappears before the consequences hit. Then they claim no responsibility because they don't make the final decisions. It's the perfect crime. All the profit, none of the accountability. In 2018, it was revealed that McKinsey was working with ICE, US Immigration and Customs Enforcement. But they weren't just providing general advice, they were finding ways to cut costs on detention centers. Their recommendations: reduce spending on food and medical care for detainees, cut supervision, find efficiencies in detention operations. At the same time, McKinsey was advising private prison companies that ran these detention centers. They were literally advising both the government agency and the companies profiting from detention, creating optimization strategies that reduced care for human beings to maximize efficiency and profit. When this became public, McKinsey employees revolted. Over 100 consultants signed an internal letter demanding the firm stop working with ICE. McKinsey's response: they'd reconsider, but the damage was done, and the fees were collected. So how does McKinsey keep getting away with it? How do they survive scandal after scandal while continuing to work with the most powerful organizations in the world? The answer is their business model. It's brilliant, it's untouchable, and it's completely legal. First, client confidentiality. McKinsey never discusses their work publicly. They hide behind NDAS and attorney-client privilege. Even when their advice leads to disaster, they can't be forced to reveal what they recommended. Second, plausible deniability. They only advise, they don't decide. So when things go wrong, they can claim the client made the final call. They're consultants, not operators. They provide analysis, not action. Third, the revolving door. McKinsey alumni are everywhere. They're CEOs, board members, government officials. They protect each other. They hire McKinsey for their new companies. They defend McKinsey in the press. It's an old boys network on a global scale. Fourth, the prestige trap. Companies hire McKinsey not because they need advice, but because McKinsey's name provides cover. If the strategy fails, they can tell shareholders they hired the best. The consulting firm becomes insurance against criticism. McKinsey's advice has contributed to hundreds of thousands of deaths from opioids. It's helped authoritarian regimes suppress millions. It's led to multiple corporate collapses, costing billions and destroying countless jobs. It's made healthcare more expensive, prisons more profitable, and inequality more extreme. And through it all, McKinsey has grown richer and more powerful. Because in the world of consulting, there's no accountability. There's only the next client, the next fee, the next scandal that will be forgotten in the news cycle. McKinsey & Company is the firm that built the modern world. They've advised nearly every major corporation, dozens of governments, and countless institutions that shape our lives. But they've done it without accountability, without transparency, without consequences. They operate in the shadows, extracting billions while leaving disasters in their wake. They are the most powerful firm you've never heard of. And now that you know what they've done, you can't unknow it. The question is, who will hold them accountable? Because so far, no one has.